The following video is not made for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello to my friends and subscribers. This is the Tiafangi coming to you with what will hopefully be a quick and successful video review. And today we're going to be taking a look at a Transformers action figure that is somewhat rare and hard to find. And the name and the paint job that this action figure has become somewhat controversial, which I'll explain why in a moment. So without further delay, let's take a look at the Transformers 2007 first movie Voyager class Mudflap. So yes, this is the first ever live action movie action figure of Mudflap that was ever released. Just like some of the other first movie Transformers figures that I've purchased recently, such as Crankcase and Jolt, which I'm hoping to review in the coming days after I'm done with reviewing Mudflap. This action figure was one of several Transformers characters whose names Hasbro was about to lose a registered trademark on towards the end of 2007 and the beginning of 2008, when the second group of Transformers action figures from the first 2007 Transformers movie was released, called Allspark Power. So Mudflap's name was released to keep a registered trademark on it. Looking back on it, I believe the main reason Hasbro did it was so they could keep a registered trademark long enough for these Transformers characters to appear in the second live-action Transformers movie that was released in 2009, Revenge of the Fallen, because as Mudflap, along with some of the other action figures such as Crankcase, Jolt, and they were names eventually used on other Transformers characters in the live-action movies. So it's kind of funny that only looking back on it now that before the actual appearance in the films, that this was Hasbro's way of saying these characters are going to be repaints of action figures in the Cybertron line, just like my previous review of 2007 Movie 1 Grindcore. Or so. Bringing focus right here on Mudflap right now. Unlike most of the other action figures released in the first live-action movie line, whose names differed from the Cybertron action figures that they were repainted from, such as Grindcore here, who I've already reviewed, who's a repaint of Cybertron Landmine. What's special about Mudflap is that the action figure from the Cybertron line that he's repainted from was also named Mudflap. So yeah, this is basically, by all accounts, Cybertron Mudflap done in a different paint job. And so it's basically Cybertron Mudflap being inserted into the live-action movieverse series. So yeah, really, as the words I'm trying to describe is that unlike the other Cybertron repaint action figures from this line of Transformers, this is by all accounts the same action figure and character that was released in the Cybertron line. So unlike the original Cybertron Mudflap action figure, which I do have in my Transformers collection, but the shelf that he's on, Mudflap is behind a bunch of other Transformers action figures, which I didn't want to move out of the way. So I apologize for not doing a size comparison with this. Comparison between both the Cybertron and 2007 first movie Mudflap action figures. But yeah, it's the same character, just done in a different paint job, so I think that's really fun that Hasbro went with that route instead of trying to assign a different name just to keep a registered trademark on this guy. And I said his name was controversial, and it's not controversial compared to other Transformers characters, such as the G1 Triceratops Dinobot, Slag, who now has the new permanently registered trademark name of Dinobot Slug. Mudflap's name is controversial because, well, basically, action figures that have his name, Mudflap, they don't sell well at retail outlets, and apparently the name Mudflap is a name that fans and collectors in general tend to not enjoy reading or collecting at all. And someone actually took a photo. The photo has, I believe, since been taken off the internet, but several years ago, someone, I believe it was up in Canada, took a photograph where at the same store that this one was released in. By the way, this sticker has been on this box since it was released back in early 2008. Back when Toys R Us was still a mass chain store here in the United States. before it went bankrupt and left the U.S. for a few years in 2018. in quite a few Transformers action figures were sold exclusively here, and 2007 first movie Mudflap was one of them. So back in the day, in the late 2000s and early 2010s, if a Transformers action figure was sold exclusively at Toys R Us, this sticker would be found on attached to the front of the box. And it was just like with Grindcore, where it had the Walmart exclusive sticker printed on it. Exclusive Transformers action figures, they had stickers on there to show you that it's only available at this store, it's not available at mass retail, so you won't find it at other store. Or these days, rather than just put a sticker on the box, most Transformers action figures that are sold as exclusives, instead of being sold in the exact same style packaging but with a sticker attached to it to show that it's an exclusive, they're sold in boxes that are exclusively designed, and they're sold in specially designed boxes rather than just the same exact ones as the figures sold at mass retail. One example you can see behind me is the Target exclusive Optimus Prime action figure. It was sold in a unique style box, and it was released last year in 2024. So it amazes me that Transformers action figures that were sold as exclusives back in the 2000s and 2010s, the only difference on the packaging to show that they were an exclusive and not a mass retail figure was a sticker that was just attached to the front of the box, and that today Hasbro goes the extra mile and designs unique style packaging for Transformers that are sold as exclusives. So it's amazing how that's changed over the years. Now so I mentioned why Mudflap's name is controversial, because people don't like the name Mudflap apparently, so it's an unpopular name with Transformers fans and collectors. But the point I was trying to get before I got sidetracked with where he was sold, someone basically, long story short, took a photograph at a Toys R Us store in Canada where, I believe it was in 2011, shortly after the Dark of the Moon Deluxe Class Mudflap action figure was released. There was a Toys R Us store where literally every Mudflap action figure that had ever been made, the Cybertron Voyager class Mudflap figure, which was the first ever version of Mudflap, this figure, 2007 first movie Mudflap, Revenge of the Fallen Mudflap, and Dark of the Moon Mudflap, the deluxe figures, and I believe also the Human Alliance and the Legends class sized action figures. Literally almost every single action figure of Mudflap, from his Cybertron figure in 2005 up to Dark of the Moon in 2011, 6 years later, there was a Toys R Us store that had literally every single Mudflap action figure that had ever been made, cluttering the same shelves. I believe the photograph might have survived by being archived on Mudflap's webpage on the Transformers Wikipedia. I could be wrong, but I believe it might still be there for viewing. So that's why Mudflap's name is controversial, because it's a name that Transformers fans and collectors generally don't enjoy always seeing on the box. So for those of you out there ever wondering, is there a Transformer that has a lousy name that's so lousy collectors and fans refuse to buy it? There is, and it's Mudflap. Mudflap. So yeah, even though I did pay a scalper to get this action figure off of Amazon on last month, on other websites, Mudflap can still be sold for a somewhat decent price. But as the years have gone by since his release back in early 2008, which was, 17 years ago, with Transformers action figures having been downsized and having been now having more articulated joints in them, like most action figures in the Transformers Cybertron online, Mudflap is somewhat dated due to the fact that he has a decent amount of articulated joints, though it's not doesn't have the same amount of joints as more recently released Transformers action figures possess. And so, like most action figures in the Cybertron line, what Mudflap here has going for him is his sheer size. He is a Voyager class action figure, but with the way Transformers action figures have been downsized over the years, he's the same size as an average modern day leader class action figure released in the current decade of the 2020s. I highly suspect that when it eventually gets released, I have a feeling that the Commander class Onslaught figure might just be a third of a size longer than Cybertron Mudflap here is. But yeah, he's a pretty awesome looking Transformers action figure. Like I said in my review of Grindcore, it started with the Revenge of the Fallen Voyager class long haul action figure in 2009, and when Hasbro decided to switch, having Voyager class and Deluxe class Transformers figures being packaged in robot mode instead of vehicle mode. So before the Revenge of the Fallen line in 2009, Deluxe class and Voyager class Transformers action figures released prior to that were packaged, transformed into their alt modes. When I started getting into Transformers, the only size classes of Transformers action figure that were packaged in robot mode were the largest sizes, such as the now defunct Supreme class size. I think Leader class sizes started with the Energon line, and when Megatron Leader class Transformers started with the Cybertron line when characters such as Optimus Prime and Megatron were transformed into their robot modes instead of their alt modes. So that's when Leader class size started to be packaged in robot mode. But yeah, smaller size Transformers such as Deluxe and Voyager, and smaller size Transformers were still packaged in alt mode until the Revenge of the Fallen line in 2009, starting with Long Haul, and then the following year with the Hunt for the Decepticons line in 2010. That's when Hasbro made the switch, and to this day, almost all Transformers action figures are universally packaged, transformed into their robot modes. There are a few exceptions, such as some of the action figures released in the Commander class sized. They are packaged, transformed into their alt modes. And of course, some of the exclusive Transformers, such as lowering the box, again, the Target store Optimus Prime being one of the exceptions to that. And so yeah, this is a nice callback to my early days of collecting Transformers action figures back in the 2000s, as seeing a Voyager class Transformer pack transformed into alt mode. And speaking of Voyager class size, for a quick size comparison, here is 2007 movie 1 Mudflap next to a recently released Voyager class Transformers action figure. Here's the Age of the Primes Voyager class Prima, and as you can see, a side-by-side comparison just with the boxes. Yeah, it's no contest which of these boxes is the larger of the two boxes. I mean, this was an average-sized box that a Voyager class Transformers action figure came in back in 2007 and 2008. Fast forward 16 to 17 years or 17 to 18 years later, and Prima here is packaged in an average-sized box for a Voyager class figure in the 2020s. So yeah, this comparison is unfortunately an example of how Hasbro has, over the last 2.5 decades, downsized not only Transformers action figures themselves, but the boxes they come packaged in. So anyways, here is Mudflap's alt mode. It is a construction crane. It's so large that it has 12 wheels on it, 6 on each side. I don't know if if it's based on a real-life model crane that has more wheels than that. But yes, I do, like I said, I do have the original Transformers Cybertron Mudflap action figure that this one is repainted from. Cybertron Mudflap was mostly light blue with some darker blue shades of blue, and his the boom arm of his crane mode. On Cybertron Mudflap it was white. It's yellow here on 2007 movie 1 Mudflap, and that gets into the other thing I said at the start of the video, the other part of him that's controversial. For those of you wondering, why in the world did Hasbro decide to repaint Mudflap mostly bright yellow with some white highlights? Well, that's because Mudflap's paint, 2007 first movie Mudflap here, his paint job is based off of one of the Transformers Generation 1 Micromasters. And the Micromaster whose paint job Mudflap is based on, well, its name is even more controversial than Mudflap's own name is. The G1 Micromaster that Mudflap is named after, his name is Transformers Generation 1 Erector. That's right, there is a Transformers character from the Generation 1 series that actually has the name Erector. Now, the word is based on, that Erector is based on I believe it's the verb where you erect building materials when you're working in construction, just like the old erector sets, which were popular during the first half of the 20th century. But in more recent years, the word erector has come to have a much more controversial meaning, and whenever Transformers fans and collectors hear his name mentioned, they burst out laughing. And I honestly wasn't aware of why Erector's name was controversial until I looked it up. But now that I am aware, Air I can understand, and why why Erector probably has the most controversial name in the Transformers series. And for those of you, out of all the Transformers characters, and for those of you who still don't know why, I'll explain it right now. And a lot of people aren't able to express it without losing it or maintaining a calm dignity. It's a term I never use, so hopefully I'll be able to keep straight-faced when I say it right here. But the word erector, it basically means it's come to be associated with a part of the body that stands erect or straight upward. And basically, the word erector, its other definition apart from some building material standing up straight during construction projects, its name is sexual innuendo, and the word erector basically means when a man's penis erects itself and sticks straight upright when having sexual intercourse with a woman. And basically, the word erector basically means that a man is in the upright position to eject out of him a sperm into a woman's vagina during an act of sexual intercourse. And that's the first step in creating new life, because if successful, a woman will become pregnant after that act of sexual intercourse happens. So yeah, that's why Generation 1 Micromaster Erector arguably has the most controversial name out of all the Transformers characters. And sadly, that's what this version of Mudflap, what his paint job is based on, is off of that Generation 1 Micromaster. So yeah, poor Mudflap can't catch a break without being surrounded by controversy. So anyways, focusing here on the box, this was the design for the action figures of the Transformers released in the 2007 first movie line. So you got the word Transformers up here on the top with the character's name, Mudflap. Here on the side of the box, you've got some of the other action figures that were sold in the line at the time. You got Cliffjumper, who was sold at mass retail, Jungle, Bone Crusher, and also Overcast, who were sold at mass retail. Voyager class size, these action figures are also available. There really isn't a fourth side of the box due to how it has the crescent-shaped curve that goes around the side. Mudflap is a Decepticon like he was in the Transformers Cybertron line. And on that note, in the Transformers Cybertron cartoon, a spoiler alert for no one who's ever watched Transformers Cybertron, but in Transformers Cybertron, Mudflap started out as an Autobot, but then Starscream tricked him into joining the Decepticons, and most of the screen time that Mudflap had in the Cybertron cartoon, he was on the side of the Decepticons. But after he realized that fighting with the Decepticons got him nowhere and actually got him busted up and beaten up pretty bad by his former Autobot allies, and the Decepticons didn't really care what happened to him, Mudflap decided to quit the Decepticons, and he went back to being an Autobot, and he remained an Autobot throughout the rest of the series. So technically, Mudflap is an Autobot who tried to be a Decepticon, didn't work, and so he went back to being an Autobot. But in the Transformers Cybertron line, because most of the screen time he had in the Cybertron cartoon, he was on the side of the Decepticons, Hasbro sold and marketed Mudflap as being a Decepticon. And I kind of wish that back during the Cybertron line in 2005 and 2006, Hasbro would have sold two different versions of Mudflap, one where he was a Decepticon, but also one where he was an Autobot. I actually customized my original Cybertron Mudflap action figure, and I put an Autobot logo over his Decepticon logo and made him a full-on Autobot here. And when I get to reading Mudflap's bio here, I'll tell you why, in my opinion, this is Cybertron Mudflap reimagined for the first movie line. Coming down here to the back of the box, you got some product photos. You got him you got the robot mode, the alt mode here in its normal form, and then also the alt mode when you activate the Cyber Key gimmick. Again, this action figure is not only a straight-up repaint of Cybertron Mudflap, it basically is Cybertron Mudflap in a different paint job and existing in the first live-action Transformers movie instead of the Cybertron cartoon. And so there's actually two Cyber Key gimmicks that activate on this on the Mudflap here. The first one is you insert the Cyber Key onto the side of the driver's cockpit, and you have a flip-out cannon. I apologize, I had to leave for a moment, but as I was saying, there's two Cyberkey gimmicks. The first one is a missile launcher that pops out of the cab section of the crane, and it's an actual spring-loaded missile. So the Cybertron line. I know. I apologize if I mentioned this in Grindcore's review, and I'm saying it again, and I apologize if I didn't say it, and I'm saying it now with Mudflap's review. But as far as I'm aware of, every single Transformers Cybertron action figure and all subsequent repaints that had firing missiles, the missile was spring-loaded out of a button that you would push. That was commonplace during the 2000s with Transformers action figures. So yeah, that's one Cyberkey gimmick there, with the Cyberkey sticking out on the side. The other Cyberkey gimmick is that when you extend the boom arm of the crane all the way out, a sword then flips out, and the sword, unfortunately, is made out of rubbery plastic. And as far as I'm aware of, the crane boom arm with the flip-out sword here on Voyager class Cybertron Mudflap, I believe this might be the physically longest Cyberkey gimmick out of any Voyager class action figure. The only weapon that's longer than Mudflap's crane arm with the sword, the only Cybertron action figure longer, is one that I've actually reviewed on my channel already, which was the Transformers Cybertron Leader Class Metroplex. Metroplex is a Buzzsaw X weapon, which is where the Cyberkey gimmick is activated. That's the only other weapon besides Mudflap's here that's the longest of the entire Cybertron line. So yeah, Mudflap has the second physically longest Cyberkey weapon out of the entire Cybertron line. So yeah, there's what the crane mode looks like with both Cyberkey gimmicks activated, and then there's the crane in its normal form. And in robot mode, both Cyberkey gimmicks activate as well. The flip-out missile with the actual driver's compartment and the cab section, it ends up on the right side arm of Mudflap, while the crane arm ends up on the left side arm. So yeah, the Cyberkey gimmick works in both robot mode and alt mode. And it's and the Cyberkey gimmick here, and the Cyberkey itself, it's actually a repaint of the Planet X Cyberkey that was actually only used on two action figures in the original Transformers Cybertron line, Deluxe Class Sideways and Voyager Class Cybertron Soundwave. On the the original Planet X Cyberkeys, they were cast in orange plastic, and the edge was painted silver, which was true for all the Cyberkeys in the actual Transformers Cybertron line. So its use here for some of the Decepticon repaints that were sold in the first 2007 movie line of action figures, that allowed for more than just two uses for that particular Cyberkey. And up here on this corner of the box, you've got the paragraph-long bio, which I miss reading those on Transformers action figures. But one thing I do particularly miss that I wish they'd bring back for modern Transformers action figures are the tech specs. So I have to turn the box around so I can read it to you guys. For the tech specs, Mudflap's tech specs are, he has a strength of 9, and this is on a scale of 1 to 10. Strength of 9, intelligence 4, speed 5, endurance 6, rank 4, courage 2, fire blast 8, and skill 5. So with a courage of just 2, Mudflap is a total coward. His intelligence and rank is 4, so he is somewhat stupid and has a very low rank amongst the Decepticons. Speed and skill are 5, so he has an average amount of speed and average amount of fighting techniques. Endurance of 6, so he has a slightly above average amount of stamina. Fire blast of 8, so he has a lot of firepower. And strength of 9, so what he lacks up for in courage and intelligence, he makes up for with brute strength. So yeah, they're basically saying that Mudflap is a bit of a dim-witted muscle man, similar to other muscular Transformers such as Tidal Wave from Armada or Lugnut from Cybertron. One thing I forgot to show on Grindcore's box is up here another. This isn't a tech spec, but one thing they were doing at the time in the late 2000s, and this lasted, I believe, until the original Generations line ended in 2012. Transformers action figures at the time in the 2000s, there was a transformation level, and I believe it started here with the first live-action movie. At least that was the first line I saw of where they had a... But you basically had a transformation scale. There were only 4, level 1 being no transformation, level 2 is easy, number 3 was advanced, and number 4 was hard. Alright, and so most of the Voyager class Transformers figures had a transformation level of a 3, advanced ants conversion, and that was basically on a 1 to 4 level of difficulty of how much it is to transform the Transformers action figures. Those transformation levels are also present, I believe, on the Universe Classics line, which succeeded the 2007 first movie line, also Transformers Animated. And the original Generations line, which was launched in July of 2010, also had the transformation levels, but because the Generations line originally was made entirely out of deluxe class-sized action figures, instead of following the 1 to 4 scale here, where all the deluxes were a level 2 easy transformation, in the Generations line, the transformation levels applied to the individual action figures, and that trend kind of continued into the Hunt for the Decepticons line as well, which was also launched in 2010, and then lasted until 2011 before Dark of the Moon made its way to retail outlets. And I think it was with the Generations Fall of Cybertron line in 2012. That was the last line in which transformation levels were present, although they might have been present in the Thrilling 30 line. It's been a while since I've looked at any photos of Thrilling 30 boxes, but getting back here to Mudflap, we still have his paragraph-long bio to read, and this is why I kept saying that Mudflap here, he's basically Cybertron Mudflap being sold in the first live-action movie line, because his paragraph-long bio here on the back of his box, it's identical to how Mudflap was portrayed in the Transformers Cybertron series. It reads his bio: Mudflap long ago earned a reputation as one of the most vicious of the Decepticons, known for earning his molecule-edge saw on weakened or disabled Autobot warriors. Little does anyone suspect, however, but his cruelty arises from his own conflicted feelings about the war. For ages, he has outed the Decepticon cause and secretly yearned to join the Autobots. His reputation is so monstrous that Optimus Prime would never trust him, and so he is condemned to continue serving Megatron and taking out his frustration on his captives. So yeah, that pretty much is Cybertron Mudflap's description of the events surrounding him in the Transformers Cybertron cartoon. And so, just like the original Cybertron Mudflap, this guy right here, 2007 first movie Mudflap, he has the potential of being both an Autobot and a Decepticon at the exact same time. But it's not like the case of Generation 1 characters such as Punch Counterpunch, or, I just lost his name, Double Dealer, or even Sideways, another character from the Unicron trilogy where he's both an Autobot and a Decepticon at the same time. It's basically that he wants to leave the Decepticons and be an Autobot. And so, basically, Mudflap, personality-wise, he's one level up from Generation 1 Thundercracker, where he doubts the Decepticons will emerge victorious in the Transformers war against the Autobots. So yeah, interesting bio there. I've been contemplating if I want to get a duplicate copy of this figure to customize into an Autobot, or if I'm going to just customize Mudflap into an Autobot and then see if I can find a non-Decepticon Cyber Key to give him. But yeah, that's pretty much 2007 Movie 1 Mudflap inside of his box. Oh, I forgot. Here on the bottom of the box, you've got some of the Voyager class action figures that were available at the time in the first movie. You've got Evac, who was a repaint of the first movie Blackout action figure, and you've got First Strike Optimus Prime, which was the repaint of the Voyager class 2007 movie Optimus Prime in his Generation 1 paint job. I did have this figure long ago, but I sold it off. I still have Evac, but I'm been debating about selling him about getting rid of him. And then one last thing to note is that Mudflap was not the only Voyager class figure released in the exclusively at Toys R Us in the 2007 first movie line. Here's a photo of his Wavemate, who was another Transformers action figure available. 2007 first movie Inferno, who is a straight-up repaint of the Voyager class Armada Red Alert action figure. So this action figure right here, it's one of the rarest action figures of Inferno out there. I tried to look up to see if maybe he might be available on Amazon as well. But unfortunately he is sold out, so yeah, unlike his Wavemate Inferno, Mudflap can still be found much more easily online. And so that's pretty much it. One last thing I will say is that unfortunately here on the product photo for Mudflap's robot mode, right here, his feet are mistransformed. They're facing backwards. When you transform this mold on Mudflap, the front bumper, the front grille, and then the back bumper for his crane mode, they flip out and form the toes of his feet. And unfortunately here for the photo on the box, they were mistransformed if you're transformed, so that's why on this side of his leg his foot isn't lined up completely straight, because the feet are actually facing backwards. So just being aware of that. And if you ever get this mold and you're not familiar with how the mold is supposed to transform, the feet in the official product photo for Mudflap are facing the wrong way. So yeah, poor Mudflap, he gets the short straw on a lot of categories. His name, his paint job being a reference to the G1 Micromaster Erector, and even the product photos on his box showing him mistransformed. So, without further delay, let's take a look at poor Mudflap out of the box and take a close look at him in his alternate mode. Alright, and so here is Mudflap out of his box in his alternate mode of a construction crane, and yeah, he is one long and massive Voyager class Transformers figure. Very long construction crane. Like I said, he has 6 pairs of wheels on both sides for 12 wheels total. So yeah, he's a very long industrial crane. Out of the box, the base of the boom arm, it's unfortunately not wanting to... it attaches on 2 hinge joints, and unfortunately it's not wanting to clip down in place. Hopefully with time it'll want to sit properly. Anyway, yeah, pretty impressive as a looking construction vehicle. I apologize for not having a more recent Voyager class Transformer here to do a size comparison and with Mudflap. I might bring him out and compare him to Studio Series 86 Hook when he gets released, but in the meantime, here's the first 2007 movie figure I reviewed last time of Grindcore, and in the Transformers Cybertron cartoon, the figures that these guys are repainted from, Cybertron Mudflap and Cybertron Landmine. Landmine basically acted as a mentor to Mudflap, and when it was discovered that Mudflap had betrayed the Autobots and joined the Decepticons in the Cybertron cartoon, it not only was a low blow for Landmine, but it was a beyond a gut-wrenching moment for him. It was a real jaw-dropping experience seeing that Mudflap had become a Decepticon. And so, if you wanted to, you could try and replay that story here with Grindcore and movie Mudflap if you desire. But yeah, anyways, there's a size comparison with a deluxe class figure of Grindcore. So, in the original Cybertron cartoon, the figures that these guys are repainted from, Cybertron Mudflap and Cybertron Landmine, they were the best of friends. They were almost like mentor and student, but it was more than that. They really got along with each other. So yeah, there's Mudflap next to Grindcore, or for a size comparison. Now, like I said, the main gimmick with the Cybertron line was the Cyber Keys activating other weapons, and so bringing the boom arm all the way back. You do unfortunately have to... getting the Cyber Key into the crane arm, it can be a little finicky, and that's because the... So anyways, here's the crane arm when it's all the way back here. In the Cybertron cartoon, Mudflap, whenever he transformed into his alt mode, the Cyber Key, his boom arm was extended about this far forward, so the crane hook was sitting in front of the tractor cabin. As you can see right here on the roof, there's two little grooves that the boom arm is meant to sit inside. So if you want it in the position that Mudflap had in the Cybertron cartoon, then this is where the boom arm is. One of the reasons why in the product photos it shows it all the way back is because, unfortunately for the Cyber Key gimmick having the boom arm extend outward, it means that the back area of the boom arm for the crane is hollowed out here. You can't really, it's not too noticeable on the original Cybertron Mudflap since the boom arm was white plastic, and then the extension for the boom arm was done in a gunmetal gray here, while the hook was done in clear green, yellowish green neon plastic to show that the flip out sword weapon that comes out of the boom arm was made out of energon. It's solid gray plastic here on 2007 movie Mudflap, so even though the sword is made out of rubbery plastic, being solid instead of clear, the sword has the crane hook slash sword, or this one has more longevity than the original Cybertron Mudflap's clear sword, or due to solid plastic having better longevity than clear plastic. One nice thing, it's kind of hard to tell since it's smoky gray plastic here, but if you look inside the cab, there's sculpted in chairs, and there's even there's a dashboard with control panels, and it's really hard to tell, but there's even a sculpted steering wheel there on the driver's side, and then of course there's a chair with control panels sculpted into the cockpit where the operator operating the boom arm for the crane and can sit in. So yeah, there's that as well. So this was back in the days when Hasbro and Takara-Tomy, the designers, put a lot of detail into the sculpting for Transformers figures. There's 4 pylons here that are to lower down and keep Mudflap stable and in one spot when he's when he's in crane mode. There's even a sculpted detailing on the underside of it to show that it's supposed to be on the ground. The rear bumper has this V-shaped pattern here on the back. And like I said, fresh out of the box, the boom arm, the double hinges that it's attached to, they don't want to sit flat. Oh, I think I just forced it down in finally. Okay, so yeah, that's fixed. So once it's locked in place, it's really stable on there. So as you can see, yeah, pretty solid built. The front bumper here with headlight sculpted on, so those transform into the robot mode feet. Yeah, a lot of detailing on here. You got some caution striping here on the boom arm, along with these cables for the boom arm being this sculpted detailing's been painted black here. I believe it was also painted on the original Cybertron Mudflap figure, but it's nice that they continued that here with the repaint for the first movie. Got more hazard stripes here on this section of the cab, and as you can tell by the missile sticking out of here on the back, this is the other Cyber Key gimmick. And then, but before we focus on that, the boom arm can extend to a full 90 degrees if you want it, so I have to move it really far back to try and keep it on full screen here there for you guys. But yeah, really tall here. Since it's the same length as Mudflap, slightly it's a pretty big, it makes him pretty big. And then when you extend this all the way out, which you technically don't have to do when without the Cyber Key, but this is one of the more difficult Cyber Key gimmicks to insert, and it's because when you insert the Cyber Key, this little yellow button right there, I'm trying to get a good angle to show you guys. As you can see, it's elevated there, so trying to insert the Cyber Key, it is a pain in the neck. So Mudflap's boom arm has one of the most difficult Cyber Key gimmicks to handle. When you extend the boom arm all the way to the top, this yellow button will finally descend and be level flush here, so it's easier to take it's easier to have the Cyber Key to insert it in and out right here. And all of the Transformers Cybertron action figures, the spot where you insert the cyber key, it's kind of hard to tell here on Mudflap because it's unpainted white plastic, but there's a sculpted in little triangle here showing you which direction the cyber key is supposed to be facing and where the weapon activates. Here on the other cyber key slot, which is here on this side of the cockpit on the front of the crane mode, there's where that cyber key inserts, and there's the triangle sculpted on top showing you which way the cyber key is supposed to be pointing, and that activates the other weapon, which I'll get to in a second. But like I said, Mudflap has the second longest cyber key weapon out of all the Transformers Cybertron action figures. I have to put him here at an angle so I can get the whole thing on camera, because when you finally do extend it all the way to the top, it's stuck right out of the box. But the boom arm, when the cyber key's in there, it'll push on a button that will cause the hook of the crane to flip 180 degrees around. Well, almost 180 degrees. In the Cybertron cartoon, it did actually flip 180 degrees, but yeah, there is a sword weapon that comes out, so when it's fully ended, it's almost the size of an old school leader class Transformers action figure. I think this might be the length of the boom arm with the sword deployed on Mudflap. Like I said, it's the second longest weapon in the entire Cybertron line. It's only surpassed by leader class Cybertron Metroplex's buzzsaw axe weapon. So yeah, this is the second longest cyber key weapon in the Transformers Cybertron line. Bringing out Grindcore here, as you can see, it's roughly the length of about 3 old school deluxe class figures from the Cybertron line. So yeah, really long thing. When I stand the boom arm erect, it's so tall I can't get it on full screen without moving my camera back and putting Mudflap here in the background. And so yeah, turning him sideways, this is the only way I can fit it on camera for you guys. I say, really impressive looking. One nice detailing here is that the hydraulic that lowers the boom arm up and down, and it has this little this is the same rubbery plastic as the actual sword, or it appears made of, this hydraulic press. So that's really nice there. If you do pull it out right, if you do bend it forward right away, it will pop out. So I highly recommend avoiding that. But yeah, it's nice to have an actual sculpted hydraulic here for the boom arm. So yeah, pretty massive weapon. It's really impressive when you have a weapon that's as long as you are, but it incorporates into the vehicle mode and doesn't just stick on the roof like it does with other Transformers action figures. I'm looking at you, Studio Series Q, who I reviewed a few days ago. And of course, for the other cyber key gimmick, you insert the cyber key here on the side of the tractor cab, and it causes the this cannon that the missile is sticking out of. Inserting the cyber key, as you just saw, causes it to automatically spring load and flip around 180 degrees, and now Mudflap can shoot at any targets that are in his way. The button is on this side here, so if you have the boom arm all the way forward, you have to move it out of the way. It's kind of hard to tell where the button is, but it's the center. It's this, put my fingers there to keep it in shadow. It's that little center rectangle here, and this is the actual button, so. Or I thought it was. Oh no, it's the front of it. You have to push on the front of it right here. Here, and it's messing with me. Okay. Yeah, so I was right the first time. It is the back. I just wasn't. It's stuck, so I have to press it really hard. Why is it not wanting to cooperate on camera? So anyways, the missile's refusing, of course, to cooperate while I have it on screen, so. And of course it fires when I have it facing away from the camera, so okay, yeah, so as you just saw, really powerful spring that launches the missile. The days of spring-loaded weapon, spring-activated missiles on Transformers action figures are a thing of the past. And I actually can't even remember the last Transformers action figure that had a missile that fired from a spring that was released recently. So yeah, really, there were really powerful, strong springs on the action figures released in the Cybertron line, and the figures that were subsequent repaints in the first 2007 movie and even the Transformers Universe Classics lines. The missiles still had the same spring power to them. So yeah, pretty nice weapons there. Yeah, pretty impressive and massive looking construction crane. For me personally, as far as cyber key storage on my original Cybertron Mudflap, I just keep the cyber key inserted here. Here. For me, I just keep the cyber key inserted here on the boom arm. Granted, the cyber key here on 2007 movie 1 Mudflap, it being purple surrounded by a sea of yellow, it does stick out like a sore thumb compared to the rest of Mudflap, but it's the best cyber key storage compared to having it sticking out of the cab right here. So yeah, not the best cyber key storage for vehicle mode, but it is somewhat decent. And as some of you might have seen a moment ago when I brought out Grindcore, the best weapon store, the only cyber key slots on the Cybertron landmine mold are, as I said in my review of Grindcore, are the sides of the back wheels on both sides of him. So the best cyber key storage for this mold in alt mode is to utilize the hollowed out space that's there for transformation. And unfortunately, the cyber key doesn't want to stay in there when it's facing upward, so that's why it's I have it pointed upside down. And so yeah, so for these for Mudflap, for the Cybertron Mudflap and Cybertron landmine molds, cyber key storage in alt mode, it wasn't the best on these two figures. And in the Cybertron cartoon, spoiler alert again for no one who's ever actually seen the Transformers Cybertron cartoon, but most of the cyber key gimmicks were activated when the Transformers characters were in their robot modes instead of alt modes. So the cyber key storage in alt modes, it wasn't the best on most of them. But you make do with what you got basically when it comes to the Transformers Cybertron figures in their alt modes. So yeah, here's one last look at 2007 first movie Mudflap in his alt mode of a construction crane. And he does have just the one Decepticon faction symbol. It's in the same exact spot where the Decepticon logo on the original Cybertron Mudflap was created. On Cybertron Mudflap, it was a traditional purple Decepticon logo with a white outline on there. Like I said, I customized my original Cybertron Mudflap figure, and so I put a Decepticon on sticker over the Autobot one that he had. Actually, I can't remember now. The faction symbol might have been on the top of the back cab on Cybertron Mudflap. But here on 2007 movie 1 Mudflap, it's a movieverse Ursa Decepticon logo where it's solid silver paint instead of purple, and that's one of the reasons why I decided to get 2007 first movie Mudflap, get this action figure and add it to my Transformers collection, because with his Decepticon logo being silver instead of purple, I thought maybe it could be used as I could use this guy as add this guy to my Shattered Glass Transformers collection. Actually, that was one of the motivators for me getting the handful of 2007 first movie Transformers action figures that I've added to my collection, was I was going to use some of them to add to my Shattered Glass Transformers collection. Like I said in my review of Grindcore, he doubles as the Shattered Glass version of Generation 1 Scoop. I believe Mudflap never actually appeared in the Shattered Glass comic books that were issued by Fun Publications back during the days of BotCon and on and the Transformers Collectors Club. But it was a pretty nice thing. I thought of using this as the shattered glass version of Mudflap. But like I said, even if I'm reconsidering using him as shattered glass and just making this guy a Generation 1 Mudflap app and displaying him with my non-shattered glass Transformers, it's still a pretty solid Transformers action figure in its own right. I'm debating with myself, I might do the same thing I did with my Cybertron Mudflap figure, and I might put an Autobot logo over this Decepticon logo here on the back and make Mudflap an Autobot like I did with my Cybertron on figure. Since by all accounts Mudflap started as an Autobot, and in his last on-screen appearance in the Cybertron cartoon, he was a member of the Autobots once again. So that's my major gripe with Mudflap, is that I wish Hasbro would have done Autobot variants of him and not just the solitary Decepticon variant. Alright, but that's just me nitpicking myself. So I've rambled on long enough, and the video I can just looked at the time. It's been almost an hour, so let's hurry up and get Mudflap transformed into his robot mode and wrap up the review. Oh yes, one thing I forgot to show off with Mudflap's boom arm before we get him transformed. It's not stationary. It's attached via a very heavy ratchet joint, so it has the potential to spin clockwise and counterclockwise 360 degrees. So if you wanted to make Mudflap as long as possible, I can just barely keep it on camera here, but yeah, if you put the boom arm, rotate 180 degrees, here is Mudflap well, if you also flip out the missile, he's at his greatest length. But yeah, this is how long Mudflap can get if you flip the boom arm around. Alright, and so here is Mudflap transformed into his robot mode, and this is the best position to have the crane arm and the cab section here. They both hang off the bottom of his lower arms as alt mode kibble. They're attached on double hinges, which are held by pins. So to remove them, just to clear Mudflap's arms of the excess parts of his alt mode, you'd have to use a pin remover, get that done. But the arm articulation on the left side arm, where the boom crane is attached, it does limit it somewhat, but it is doable. Well, if you want to get Mudflap into some kind of sort of decent poses, at least if you want to get him standing up. But yes, the types of joints that he has, they're typical for Voyager class Transformers that were released in the Cybertron line of action figures. He does have light piping, but it uses a smoky gray plastic. So if you were to hold it up to bright enough light, see if I can use the flashlight on my cell phone to show it off to you guys. But yeah, if you get a bright enough light to shine through the back of Mudflap's head, and you can there, my camera's picking it up. If you can get a bright enough light to shine on there, his eyes do glow smoky gray, so not the best color choice, I personally think, for eye colors. But it is nice, since light piping is something that's not found on modern Transformers action figures these days. But yeah, overall, a pretty impressive looking robot mode. More of the whites and grays highlights that he has shine here in robot mode compared to his alt mode. For articulation, the head's on a swivel joint at the neck, so it can rotate clockwise and counterclockwise 360 degrees. Mudflap, technically, he can't look up or down, and so that hinders his head articulation. Most of the joints on Mudflap are ratchet joints, so these shoulders can rotate forward and backwards on some very loud clickety ratchet joints. Same thing with the arms moving in and out of the shoulder, ratchet joints as well. Swivel joints in the elbows, and then really hard ratchet joints at the, swivel joints in the bicep. The bicep is what I meant to say. Really hard ratchet joints in the elbows. No wrist articulations due to how the hands are sculpted. He does have a swivel joint, even though, as you can tell by the way he transforms, his pelvis slits into two halves when you transform his legs into this one side of the crane. Getting the boom arm out of the way for a second. But yes, the hip joint itself is a separate part. Alright, so he does have a waist swivel, but it's not so much a swivel, it's a ratchet joint. Unfortunately, it's hindered by Mudflap's backpack, so, and even though it has the potential to spin 360 degrees, it can't really do it due to this kibble from his alt mode, forming a type of double wing backpack, like that sits here on the back. Moving the arm out of the way to show the leg articulation. The legs have the potential to rotate on a ratchet joint, universal ratchet joint at the hip. Outward this far are the legs, so if you can get both of his arms out of the way, Mudflap can do a full split. Swivel joint at the base of the thigh, right above the knee joint, which the actual knee joint is another ratchet joint. No ankle tilts. Ankle tilts weren't a type of joint that were uncommon during the Unicron trilogy. So if you want to get Mudflap into a sprawl-legged position, he will be standing on his feet angled like this. There's no way of him. The only way he can actually stand on his feet is in an upright position. But the feet, because of how they transform, the feet can rotate at the ankle joint 360 degrees, so you can at least have the toes spread outward. And like I said, this is the official transformation for Mudflap's feet, where the grill and the back bumper of his vehicle mode actually become the toes. So in the product photos, the feet are facing the incorrect way. The hollow part are supposed to be his heel spurs. The weapons do activate here as well. L in robot mode. I don't want to take the cyber key out of the boom arm. But using a thin object to reach in here and push the button, and just to show it off really fast. So the missile, if I can get his arm at an angle I want it. So the spring-loaded missile does fire in robot mode as well. Mudflap didn't use the missile as often in the Cybertron cartoon as he did the sword that deployed from the crane, from the boom arm of the crane. But yeah, the missile does fire well, but again, the button's not wanting to cooperate on camera. But it does work in robot mode as well as alt mode, straightening his arm out as best as I can. But yeah, the only real hindrance to Mudflap is the kibble that hangs off of his lower arms. But for the crane arm, so like I said, Mudflap's joints can be a little finicky, but getting the boom arm in this position, officially what it's supposed to do is you push the cyber key forward and all the way. And I do not recommend actually pushing on the cyber key when you move it forward and backward. I actually recommend grabbing onto the button mechanism here to get it up. But yeah, here's the crane boom arm sword fully deployed, and as you can see, it's really lengthy. I almost can't put Mudflap on screen without part of him disappearing. But in the Cybertron cartoon, what Mudflap would do is he would actually put the boom arm, he'd put the sword into the ground, jab it, and then he'd launch himself forward to attack his enemies. So that's how he was able to get close enough to his enemies from a great distance and launch an attack, was by deploying this really long weapon. So yeah, really imposing weapon that Mudflap possesses here. Here. And stability-wise, if you want Mudflap to not to stand upright without the weight of the crane arm being in the way, then unfortunately this is the best way to have him in a stable position when he's on a solid surface, is having the boom arm sitting on the ground like this. So it's not the best transformation, but it is doable. So rotating it back up so it's pointing upward again. So like I said, if you can get over how most of the alt mode just hangs off of his lower arms as robot mode kibble, Mudflap is still a pretty impressive looking Voyager class Transformers figure. So zooming in on him right again, here's his face sculpt. Again, this is there's no new sculpted detailing used here on 2007 first movie Mudflap compared to Cybertron Mudflap, so he is a straight up repaint of that figure. And just for a size comparison again, since I did it in alt mode, here he is next to 2007 movie 1 Grindcore. So for fans of the Cybertron on series, Landmine and Mudflap were the best of friends. Landmine started out as more of a mentor to Mudflap, since in the Cybertron cartoon, Landmine was just like Generation 1 Ironhide and Cup, where he was an older Autobot and Mudflap was a younger one. But they managed to remain friends until Mudflap was tricked into joining the Decepticons. And so if you want to reenact Cybertron, Landmine, and Mudflap interacting with each other, you can kind of do the same here with Grindcore and 2007 movie 1 Mudflap. But yeah, there they are standing side by side with each other. So for my final thoughts, and of course the proverbial question I say in my reviews, do I recommend getting the 2007 first movie Voyager class Mudflap action figure and adding it to your Transformers collection? I only recommend getting 2007 first movie Mudflap if you're a fan of Transformers action figures that transform into construction cranes that aren't Hook, and if you like the Cyber Key gimmick from the Cybertron line, where Cyber Keys activate spring-loaded weapons and missiles, and if you're a fan of Mudflap as a Transformers character in general, and if you can look past the homage to the Generation Micromaster Erector and the controversy surrounding that Micromaster's name, then yeah, he's a pretty decent Transformers action figure. But it's one that, like I said, he came out at the beginning of 2008. He was originally sold here in the United States exclusively at Toys R Us stores before Toys R Us temporarily left the United States and declared bankruptcy in 2018. So he is a Transformers action figure from a bygone era where Toys R Us was a competitor with Walmart and Target. A good strong rival to those two retailers. But yeah, Mudflap. I only recommend getting him if you absolutely want to have this action figure in your Transformers collection. If not, and you missed out on Mudflap the first time you got him, then he can be an easy pass due to the aftermarket prices he goes for. He was released back at the beginning of 2008, and as of this video's recording, it's June 1st of 2025. So he's been out there in the world for the last 17 and a half years now. So pretty hard to find vintage Transformers action figure. Figure is the category that Mudflap falls into. And like I said, there's also the white elephant in the room where the name Mudflap was used to a different Autobot character who appeared in the Transformers Revenge of the Fallen movie. But unlike the controversy surrounding Revenge of the Fallen Mudflap and also Skids, nothing like that is here with Mudflap. One last spoiler alert for nobody who's watched the ever watched the Transformers Cybertron cartoon. Mudflap was one of several characters in the Cybertron cartoon who spoke the English language with a heavy accent. Some of the other characters, such as the Cybertron version of Jetfire, he spoke with an Australian accent, not unlike Generation 1 Outback. The characters from the Giant Planet, Metroplex, Quick Mix, and Menasor, they all spoke with English with a Scottish accent. Similar to Generation 1 Ironhide, Landmine kind of sort of spoke with a rough and tough American cowboy accent, similar to Generation 1 Ironhide, so it's an easy comparison of G1 Ironhide with Cybertron Landmine. But Mudflap, when he spoke in the Cybertron cartoon, he spoke English with a French accent. There's even a line of dialogue where he actually tells someone wanting to fight with him, you actually want to tangle with me, mon ami? So yeah, he actually even spoke a few words of French in the Cybertron cartoon. So yeah, not as much controversy compared to Revenge of the Fallen, Mudflap app in that regard, but due to the fact that his paint job is designed to homage Generation 1 Erector, it's still controversial. So yeah, poor Mudflap can't catch a break wherever he goes. But yeah, so this has been my review of the Transformers 2007 first movie Voyager class Mudflap action figure. Straight up repaint of the 2005 Transformers Cybertron Mudflap app action figure. I would recommend getting this if you're a fan of the Transformers Cybertron series, and if you don't mind seeing Cybertron Mudflap in bright yellow and white colors, then this figure is recommended if you're a fan of Transformers Cybertron, the Cyberkey gimmicks, and this action figure in general. But if you're not a fan of any of those things, then 2007 first movie Mudflap can be an easy pass. So thank you guys all so much for watching. This has been the TFN and Geek. Thank you to all my friends and subscribers for your continued support. Hopefully I'll be able to get more reviews done in the coming weeks. And until next time, you guys, please remember to stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you all once again. And until next time, you guys, transform and roll out. Goodbye, everyone.